Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, welcome back everyone to this SUSTA GBM number 2 in spring semester 2023. And today we're going to talk about several types of campaigns that clubs on local campuses can do. We have several speakers today. So we will talk today with our first speaker is Katerina Slinkova from Stanford. She will be talking about the campaign Run for Ukraine. Katerina, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And I would love if we have a minute and also tell me how long should I go for? How much time do we have?
Yeah, so we usually try to keep this meeting within an hour, like.
Okay.
But I'd say like maybe you can have like 20 to 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then
okay.
Tell us.
Oh, 20 minutes is a lot, so I will try to do even faster than that. And if you don't mind, I would love to share some of the learnings from a broader group of things that we at Stanford are experiencing. Because Run for Ukraine was one of like many other things that we've been doing. It was a great initiative. There was several challenges that I will tackle, but I think it would be important to capture some learnings because I was reflecting on this past several weeks on what we've been doing good, what could be done better, and I'm happy to share it with you. And I think it's kind of meta learnings, right? So initially, when 1 year ago it just started, there was, of course, a lot of sense of guilt, a lot of sense of helplessness and like looking for any way to contribute. So that was a very different energy, right? The same group of people could meet every day for many hours together just to live together through the news and work on missions together. Now we're transitioning in a phase where people have maybe several hours a week. And these are like the most motivated people have several hours a week, like myself and the most active members. And the rest of the people, it's success if they join the weekly sessions, but sometimes they do not even show up because maybe schedule doesn't work for them, or like it's becoming harder. And there are two reasons for this. First, I think that for students who know exactly what drives them, they might be engaged with a group not related to the university, but related to the mission they are mostly connected to. For example, someone feels that they want to be a part of educational initiative, and if your organization doesn't have an active educational initiative, they will feel like they will spend this time more productively working with other organization on the education initiative, for example, right? And I think this is okay, as long as they're working towards Ukraine. We just want to make sure that they're all right, that they're, take care of them as a human being, see them at cultural events. But this is one type while people zone out. A second type that people are just getting super busy, helping their families, or like maybe helping refugees, their friends, so they are not available as much. And this is a very normal thing. And the remedy, how I think we should approach this, and one thing we already tried, and second thing I hope we're about to try at Stanford. So what helps to bring people together and just to see each other, have recreational events. Once a month or once every 2 months, we have just borscht party, right? And that's how people come together. And inevitably, they start talking about what's happening, what they're working on, but sometimes switching the mode from here we talk about projects to here we're just trying to get to know each other really helps. And this was actually voiced by one of our new members. We're like, what is missing? How we can make it better for you? And I'm like, I just don't know you guys, right? Because we've been together with each other since the beginning of the war, but these new students that arrived this September, like, we have no idea who you are as a people. So it really helps to build personal connection. Another thing that helps, and this is also proven, having an exciting guest. An exciting guest, I don't consider myself an exciting guest, as we see participation today and attendance today showed it. But when there is, for example, Vitali Dainega, or some kind of representative from a startup that we heard about. For example, lately we had this VR people. They brought together several less active members just because they were excited to learn about what startups are doing. So guests help to reunite people within the work. So we are, as community organizers now, we are also competing for the time of our members. So it seems like it's exchange of energy. If we want people to bring energy to the missions that we have in mind, we need to give energy in some form, in form of new information, just warmth, hospitality, and these things tend to work. And the third one that we are yet to try, I'm checking the chat. It's okay. I'm being very humble, and I'm yet to be. I hope in the future I would be a speaker for some students like myself. But a third thing that we haven't tried yet, but I hope to try, and this is rooted in social psychology stuff of decomposing the large group into personalities and connecting a new member of the group with an older member of the group, so that an older member of the group would personally, not in a group chat where 3 people showed likes and the rest 20 people are silent. So unfortunately, like, you hear a lot about Stanford community, but this is something that we're working with too. So but when you personally check in, like, hello, how are you doing? And I know that as a person who is running the entire org, connecting with 20 people could be hard. But if you say, like, I will talk to this 3, please talk to this 3, make sure that they feel that they found this spot in volunteering event, that they feel needed, that they feel engaged. I hope to do more of this. I just had this realization recently. But for example, on Friday, what did I do? I was present on all the events, but I assigned people to volunteer. I assigned new people to volunteer in new events, even though I knew that I would be there and I could be a volunteer on all 3 of them. We're like, okay, Elisa, Kirilo, Tatiana, we need you here. You are a assigned volunteer. We gave information to, like, Stanford facilities that you will be there. And they, of course, they show up, they feel responsible. And these are highly motivated and organized people, but we need to create opportunities for them to step into this. Or for example, Rally this time, I totally dedicated this to our younger generation. It could be like slightly better organized. Maybe we could have put the banner 5 minutes earlier, but now they know where to pick up the equipment, where the banner comes from, how to think this through. So just delegating and activating people through just engaging them in activities, that helps. And we're yet to become better at this. I should admit that we're not 100% in, not at all, but this is what I've learned.
So Katerina, if I may ask you a question. So basically what I'm hearing you're saying is that first thing that you haven't tried but are going to try is sort of like a mentoring, when the more seasoned group member will be pretty much kind of like introducing the new fresh member to all the activities that the club does. Is that how it's going to work?
Yes, but also it might mean just to grab a coffee together and to ask how they're doing, become their friend first, right? I feel like it's a beautiful thing to get to know each other, because all the Ukrainians that was somehow got to the US, to this American universities, they're incredible people. So I'm sure it's going to be just a fun meeting for you too. But yeah, it's just And honestly, this is what MBA program did to us. They asked second year members to talk to first year class just to create this intergenerational communication. So I hope we will try this at USAS too. But it seems to me that on this personal connections, a lot of things. We have one person who you know really well, Bogdan, and whenever something like and whenever we are trying to engage undergrads, he has a special channel with them because he invites them to borscht in his place. And I'm like, oh, we haven't seen them in a while. And he was like, yeah, I'll get them. So some stuff happened naturally. We just need to learn this and expand this to all these new members to make sure that every new member have someone who take care, like is eager to respond to their questions so they feel welcomed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the second point, you mentioned that you also are considering pretty much like assigning responsibilities.
Oh yeah, sometimes you have to. I mean, otherwise, I don't know, do you achieve consensus with Ukrainians at all? It's so hard. Everyone has their own opinion. We're democracy. It's so hard. And then you're 40 minutes in, you're not progressing at all. So at some point you're like, okay, I'm assigning you to do this. And people, usually they're happy because they want to be helpful. If they absolutely cannot, they will let you know. But they're just shy sometimes to take leadership on something. So I'm like, you better be responsible for this. I feel you will do great. We are nominating you. Nomination is a great word. So I nominate you to lead to tomorrow's meeting. So there was a time when we circulated the pushing us through agenda to different people every time. And it was awesome. We should start doing it again. I feel like with anniversary, we got into the mode of most efficiency. So we were just going through as fast as possible. But even next meeting, it's going to be Nikita who is taking us through the meeting. And then Nikita is like, oh, I have to be there on the next meeting. I have to know what we are going through. So yeah, that really helps. And Dan, yeah, thank you for being here too. I talked about you too, about how special your relationship, how special your bond with undergrads is.
Sometimes you just need to shame them into doing something. I'm sorry.
And feed them borscht, and then to shame.
No, first you feed them, so they kind of feel vulnerable. Like, we ate together. It's like a tribal thing, and then you can okay, we're kind of cool, and then hey, where have you been? I cooked something and you were not there. And you undergrad, and undergrads, they typically underfed and overworked. So you need to, there are psychological pressure here, obviously.
Well, thanks, Kate. The reason why I asked all those questions, because we also kind of try to take a perspective of who are running most of the student clubs. And these are not always the people with an MBA experience and pretty much maybe a freshman, second year in school. So it's, I would say it's a good pathway in my opinion, to learn some leadership skills. And to learn something, we just first need to be exposed to something and to understand how it works. So your explanation actually was great in doing both of those things. So please go on.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's helpful. And I should, I should be blunt here. First of all, on MBA, they teach this stuff. But second of all, when it started, I was struggling too. I didn't know how to help the group to be more efficient. Then we came up with a little bit of more structure to our meetings. We started to actually create agenda and have 2 buckets: what is happening, what you need to help with. Then we started to assign people to each action item on a help list. So it's evolution. It's definitely, it wasn't like this from the day one.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Run for Ukraine campaign? And especially maybe you can mention some practical things so that when clubs want to repeat your experience, they know where to start, what to pay attention to, how to set up pretty much the campaign?
Sure. So Ran, how we decided to do this, we saw that the attention to Ukraine wears down and shrinks. And we're like, what is it that's such an easy thing that we could do? And we just happened to have a lot of wristbands because we had a talented MBA student who emailed a bunch of bracelets companies, and two of them produced 1,000 of bracelets for us for free. And we just had plenty of those. So honestly, that's how we like, oh, why wouldn't be around? Because we already have kind of a little bit of accessory that is needed. What happened next, that among our group, we're like, we are doing this run, who would like to be a part of it? And that's how there was probably like 5 people who were on it from the beginning to an end. And then we just scheduled a weekly meeting. We assigned assigned to do things. So first, it's important to capture these people who are interested to help you with this specific event, right? And it's okay if it's just 3 people, as long as they are showing up regularly and they're moving on and stay with you throughout the process. It's, you know, it's half of the success. Then I think it was Purnima first who started to create the database of different running organizations, because we were thinking that to get a broader exposure, we need to partner with existing running clubs. The idea was great. I didn't hear even one response, unfortunately. Purnima, did you hear something back?
Shockingly, it was I heard back maybe from 2 or 3 clubs, and I don't actually think we got any signups from those clubs. A few clubs have automatic responses. A lot of them seem to be like deserted clubs that no longer exist. I emailed, I think I did 5 states. I emailed clubs in 5 states, and I emailed every running club in this running club like website that lists all of the clubs. And the response was just shockingly low. You would think it was a numbers game, and you know, you just throw your darts randomly and then some of them will stick, but a surprisingly low number stuck.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it seems like to engage with totally new people who are like, let's say, cold, right? In this funnel, there are warm people who attended some events, rallies, etc. There are cold people who did nothing about Ukraine before. So it seems like it's pretty hard to convert those people. Then I think we started to double down on social media, on warm audience, started to ask people who, so at the moment when we realized that we have not nearly enough people, we converted this from, like, we extended the deadline date of purchase of the ticket. So it became more of an ongoing summer initiative. And then we saw some people they post a picture, we will definitely repost it and celebrate them on social media. That's, I think, how more people joined. Another interested learning that we had first had a fixed price ticket. And we're like, because we don't want people to get stuck on like, should I donate $5 or 100? And then at some point we removed the price and did it like on a discretion of the person. And it actually was helpful, because even though we had a couple of people who donated like $5, which like barely covered the postage for like shipping, sending the bracelet, we had like former ambassador to Ukraine donate 1K. And it was great. It was amazing. So at this point in time, we were not talking about hundreds, thousands of dollars. We ended up collecting just $9,000. But one person collected 1K. So yeah. Maria?
Did the ambassador run?
Yes, he ran. He didn't send us the picture from the run, but we asked his permission to just post his picture and said that this is our participant. He was okay with this. Yeah, so it helped that we had friendly relationships with him, right? We saw him once or twice on Stanford campus. But those were like key ambassadors or key runners. Several things that I'm forgetting to mention. I think what could have been done better, we had this abstract goal of buying neonatal equipment, and it was super relevant at that time, but we didn't know specifically which hospital, right? How many kids they're having each month. I think if we had a clearer goal, maybe even a picture of a doctor who we're going to help, I think it would be easier to communicate this mission. Like in the very beginning, USAS launched this plane mission, right? And we're like, we are filling the plane with medical supplies. And here we're thinking neonatal equipment. And people sometimes don't know what is neonatal equipment at all. Like, so the more clarity you have, the better. So this is a big learning for us. So if we had a more clear story, who we are buying what, that would help us. But we hope that we will collect for 10 units, right? And in the end, I think 9 kids, maybe 1 unit or 2. So unfortunately, like we were not even close to the goal we had in our minds. Second learning and failure that I thought if I will get through to some opinion leaders who are runners and who have a lot of followership in US, they will share this content. So I made my personal mission, and it was a little bit intimidating, but I still did it. I did a video. So first I chose the person who is a veteran who lost her limb in Afghan war. She's a runner, and she used to, she talks about social issues a lot. Ukraine was nowhere on her mind. But because I listened to her once as a speaker on unrelated event, I'm like, I'm definitely going her, like, inviting her to run. So I kind of harassed her on social media. I recorded a video saying like, Melissa, you're like, I know that you're such a power woman and you know what people like coming from the war, what they're feeling with. We hope you can join us. We're doing this incredible thing. And she did join us. She bought a ticket for like $100. Great. But I hope she would share. I never mentioned that I want her to share because I thought it would be like next step. But she didn't. She thought that her buying ticket, she's like, please, peace off. So we had, hopefully she ran. She never posted about it because her posts are more about American issues, about her like some brand partnership, etc. So learning number 2, you have to like be very candid about what you hope them do. But also if, Ukraine is not on their top of their mind, they'll probably, it will be very hard to convert them, unfortunately. I did another video for a figure skater who is of Ukrainian descent, but I probably didn't harass her hard enough, so she didn't even buy a ticket. Yeah, but that's how we learn. So yeah, what else can I tell you about this? Let me pause for a second. So these are 2 big failures: not having a clear enough message about who you're helping, and hoping that people will help you just because you assume they would, but sometimes it's not on their agenda.
Okay, just two questions. So I see Anna said that she has an idea about the how to improve this type of events. If Anna want to speak, and also while Anna is asking, can you clarify whom did you partner with to actually collect the financial side of the of the event? Because I think for a lot of our American friends, it's important whom we're donating money and who's handling the financial side of any
great question. So because we wanted to go to neonatal, Nova Ukraine didn't have a specific mission for that. We partnered with Washington State, and they are less techy than Nova. I think Nova Ukraine would be able to even create a page for this. But what we did with Washington State, basically, it was Eventbrite that was tied to my account. in the end of the sales, and Eventbrite, unfortunately, it takes a little bit of a commission. It's like a very small one, like 2% or something like that, but there is a commission. It was going linked to my account, and then for this entirety of the sum, even, you know, what happens with organizers, to make it rounded, I added a little bit, and we sent it as a wire transfer to Washington State Association. I'm still honestly waiting. I hope they can write us a light thank you note. They thank me in personal messages, but I want something to show to the team, but they're probably way too busy. And also because it was just 9K, it's not like we made a huge difference, unfortunately, for them, but it's still helpful, right? It's still very helpful. So in this case, it was Eventbrite, my bank account. I am donating money to them, and for me, it's very important in my next tax statement that I will qualify this amount as a charity donation. So I would not pay tax on this, because then I'm screwed to pay tax on this money.
Yeah, that's important for everyone. I believe that most of the initiatives fundraising on campuses are doing in the same way, using personal accounts. So it's an important note to mark that, track your incoming money to your bank account and be aware of doing the taxes properly. Tax season underway. Anna, please.
Yeah, because PR and marketing, it's what I'm doing for a living. I'm involved in a lot of projects as a volunteer, but also I ran some campaigns as the agency for even like when we raise millions of dollars for Ukraine and stuff like that. I have lots of comments and suggestions, but probably we can do another meeting for that, because again, I don't want to run overtime. In terms of like your particular initiative, in 2 months, we'll be doing a big fundraiser in California, where some Ukrainian, again, I have the whole presentation and everything, because we are preparing this event already with the governor of California and with a lot of organizations, and for sure, Dima Kushniro consulate, blah, blah, blah. Lots of people already involved. But because you didn't know about it, I can announce it now. You can join, and you'll actually get all of these contacts you were talking about that you are trying to reach, because you're thinking in the right direction, but kind of like, again, you don't have as much workforce and possibilities to do it in a way as it is when you are running something big. So again, in 1 or 2 months, we are still with a date to be decided. It will be a project when Ukrainian firefighters, they have this super incredible guy who is always breaking a world, how you call it?
Record?
Yeah, records in terms of running. So he already did like 1,000 kilometers from Kyiv to Warsaw as a thank you run. Again, he's all over news and stuff like that. He'll be doing the same in California, but kind of like reaching higher point. He's like a real firefighter, and you know that ZSU is our kotiki, our armed forces, but those guys, firefighters, they actually do a lot of things in terms of like, again, the next kotiki, again, I don't know how to translate it to Purim, as it like we are very nicely calling our armed forces, because again, trying to shape them with as much love as possible. And firefighters is kind of like next one, but they're not having as much attention as like armed forces, although they for sure deserve it a lot. So we already have sponsors. We have Under Armour, we have Mazda, we have some celebrities and stuff like that. So if it's possible to involve you as SUSTA, as all these organizations and universities, because it will be California, I can share again later with Maria presentation. It still will be just for internal use only. So you'll have an understanding what it's going to be, what channels we're going to use, and you'll be our one of the channels to reach to the people, but also for you, it will be experience and possibility to go with your initiative after, because it's totally the same target audience. It's like all the same will be doing, just here it will be one guy running, and people can, again, we already have naming, branding, everything for that. One guy will be running and people can donate buying those fire miles to virtually or physically to run with him. But for you, it's all data you can collect. Just the same as, again, when I will be talking about this movie and this initiative, everything is a content. So just together with people, it's super cool and to learn about them. But when you have a real project, a real deadlines, and make people interested to do something, it's where you get all of these contacts, and it's where you get people who actually do stuff, not only sign up to be a part of any organization. So again, it's a little bit on a suggestion side and about what you were talking about, sharing your experience. But based on my experience, again, I used to be in volunteer in a lot of like organizations here in the US, but past year is totally different. And when you have very clear understanding that, like, for example, first months of the war, we were taken out of Kiev only, moms with kids only. That's it, like nothing else, whatever. And we were able to, again, connect with more than 100 volunteers all over the world, even those who were interested to participate our group to do this like thing and task. The same thing with the movie. Again, I don't know if I'm allowed or whatsoever, but small to start with that. But a small comment about this one, if you'll be interested to join this big event, this organization, for you, it will be an opportunity to, again, gather data, have more experience, and run it further, having all of these contacts, having all of this, again, you mentioned how you called road to all of these running organizations. We already have all the lists. We have half of them already joining us and doing something. So if you'll be part of the team who will be communicating of them or doing some kind of like things in this project, you'll keep those contacts and can use them further. So again, if you think that it's something which will be relevant for like another year or stuff like that, and I believe that running, and especially in California, is something which can be this type of topic, because again, it's lifestyle, it's some kind of like overachieving something and blah, 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 blah. It will be a good opportunity to expand your contact list, to raise awareness about your initiative, because you can be a part of like Run for Ukraine group, who is like a part of this big run. So again, think about it. I'll share all the information.
Yeah, Anna, that'd be great. And I'm looking forward to look at those details of the campaign. I'll definitely make an announcement to all like links to all public sources. If there are any like mentioned in the presentation, like website or something.
Again, for now, I'd like to hold our horses with that. As soon as we have a date, we have all the, again, we have very serious preparation phase, because our goal is minimum 1 million, but better to do 2. And for that, again, you need everything to be ready to launch a campaign, and not to spend any resources or like any contacts or whatsoever, just to do some not planned movements, because otherwise we won't reach our goal. Again, it's what I see in the past events. The better the preparation, the cooler the events, the more money you can raise. But it's very important to do your homework and to run it as smooth as possible with the plan. If something is not happening, you have plan B, plan C, and stuff like that. Not just like what else we can do, not inventing the wheel.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, we can even engage clubs and like then calculate the contribution of each of the club, how they multiply the effort. But that's a probably topic for another conversation. So thank you very much, Kate, for sharing all the information about the events that you've been, all your effort at Stanford. And now I would like to move on to the second part of our presentation, talking about the movie showing the movie at your university. And today we have Nikita Voloshenko and Anna, who will be giving us a little bit more tips about like where to start, what to do, and we're going to be talking about one particular movie that is highly regarded by the professional community. So the floor is yours.
I would like to switch places with Anna and let her talk about the movie in general terms, because she's the person who onboarded me to that. And after her, I'll talk about experience at Stanford and like tips and tricks how to make it better. Okay, so Anna, mic is yours.
Thank you very, very much again, guys, for you being here today, and for personally for Nikita and Max, because it's those people who are already did or doing some screenings. A little bit, again, some background, how some idea starts. I just read a post that you all probably, except Purima, know Alexander Rodnyansky. It's kind of like the most prominent guys in the film and television industry from Ukraine. And he was actually super, again, one of the top ones in Russia in the past 20 years. And he's very supportive in terms of everything going on in Ukraine. It's his personal things that he's inviting all of these celebrities who is coming to Zelensky, blah, 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 blah. Everything is cool. But in his Instagram, he decided to support and to endorse movie which called Navalny, which is nominated for Oscar documentary as the best documentary. And I kind of like, again, on the back on my mind, just from scrolling Facebook feed, saw that it's another documentary I've never heard and never read in any news, just read in a feed of my friend who were involved into moving that they're also nominated for Oscar. So I started kind of like to learn about that, and understood that in the same nomination, and you understand again all how important it is and painful it is to compete in anything on any floor with Russians nowadays, even if they are so democratic and everything. And when even Ukrainians are supporting and endorsing like movie about Navalny. So it's all started with one post on the Facebook where I was kind of like expressing my thoughts that it can be like that, and please all PR minds I know help me, suggest me what's possible to do. And I personally know people who are not only in the past year, but in the past 9 years, because this war started 9 years ago when they occupied western of Ukraine. They were sitting in all of those shelters and places where kids' rights were violated, and kind of like were helping to do something with that. So I got a lot of responses from people like trying to help. And next day I was connected with the producer, with the movie makers, with the PR company who is doing it like, let's say, professionally, talking like, guys, how we can help. We are just volunteers, but we are so passionate about like helping something which is, again, as a PR person, I understand that it's also new and cool angle. It's the first time in the history when Ukrainian movie about Ukraine, filmed in Ukraine, nominated for Oscar, and no one knows about it. And it can be our opportunity to talk about other problem, yeah, about like kids and their rights. And again, it's very emotional topic. So yes, maybe each day we are still in a cover in the New York Times, but the more angles we have to talk about different problems of the war, and especially when it's already something which is acclaimed from Oscar, which is understandable by this audience and stuff like that. So let's do something. And it was very kind of like a straightforward call with the team. They said what we need, and we kind of like didn't expect to be nominated for Oscar, so we were not ready. We need additional screenings because, again, usually it's a very huge money involved into, let's say, back on the back to to do movie rally, to present it with the distributors in different countries and like in different cinema theaters and blah, 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 blah. So they didn't have those resources. And for sure it's connected with the rights, but they said that if it will be like charity screenings or screenings in universities, we are open for that and will be very thankful. So I understood that it's one direction. Another direction they suggested was celebrities and their endorsements. And again, we have some success there. It's already Oprah and Madonna. And believe me, we reached like a lot in order to get it. And third one, it was, what was the third one? It's some different type of Ukrainian organizations who can be involved and spread info in their like social media or like whatsoever they have, just to invite. But again, just to spread info, it's not enough, especially if it's nowhere to see this movie. But we decided that, for example, if it's Nova Ukraine, they can kind of like promote those screenings which are at Stanford or Berkeley or whatsoever in this territory. If it's Razum, it's kind of like something in New York or tri-state area whatsoever. So I shared with you the first link. I will copy it again. Our success so far, again, it's just volunteers and people who kind of like I met through other people and whatsoever. Most of the people, I'm Harvard alum by myself, so only Harvard is kind of like what I had contacts with, and all other people, it just like came out of nowhere whatsoever. So we have here Stanford again, it's two of yours, Princeton, Georgetown University. It's already some universities in Europe, some are pending. We already, after all that, after we kind of like started this initiative, had requests from all our consuls all around US and stuff like that. So again, some dates are still pending. Some screenings we already have. We learned our mistakes in terms of like, for example, right now, screening happening in Georgetown University. And just because it was enough time, it's 300 people who made the registration and came to the event and kind of like see it. I know that it wasn't a high attendance, for example, at Stanford, but it was also unbelievably helpful because it's very prominent name and they can talk that they had screenings in the top universities. So again, probably Nikita can tell more about experience into making it what was nice from our side, what we gave in terms of information, what's better in terms of timing and stuff like that to make it kind of like more visible. But if you are talking in general about screenings of the movies or like initiatives, you can combine people around or whatsoever. This is kind of stuff I was talking before when I made the comment. It's only content. And people were so passionate about the content that they, again, reached by themselves started to connect me. Like yesterday, I talked to the guy who will be organizing stuff at Harvard. He immediately made the connection to me in Paris with attaché, cultural attaché, some blah, 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 blah. So we already kind of like tentatively planned another 3 screenings in Paris. I am already even kind of like afraid a little bit of the volume which is coming because I didn't have any goal. It wasn't like 1 or 2 or 5, and now it's almost 30 in the different parts of the world. So long story short, if you see there some universities where it's still possible, please add yours. It's a super topic. We providing everything we can, which is like movie by itself. It started to be available on Amazon Prime just recently. Before it was very kind of like special experience because it was no possibility to see it nowhere. Because again, it was no distribution, and it's some Ukrainian product nominated to Oscar. So it was this kind of like we were creating a demand a little bit because again, it's the only possibility to see it through screening. Second thing which we are providing, it's always Q&A with people who actually made it and people from a front line who are able to answer any questions. Third one, it's some promotional materials, which is like in Ukrainian language and English language. It's supposed to be always very clear and answering all the questions about it. And for sure, a nicely done flyers and stuff like that. So it all look consistent, the same, and professional, and stuff like that. So again, if you are ready to add anything into this sheet, feel free to do it. If not, I'm already unbelievably thankful, because Berkeley and Stanford are super top names, and it already helped the movie a lot. And again, my personal thanks for how it was organized in those chats with Nikita and Max, quickly, easily peasily, just like I was able just to read through the chat at the end of the day and help them where I was needed. So again, thank you guys for making it happen so smoothly and professionally.
Awesome. So can you navigate us where to start, where the club who wants to do this needs to start contacting you, or filling some form, or contacting through us, and what resources are needed to make it happen?
So usually, again, how it happened before, because again, I told you that it was not like thoughtful things with the homework or whatsoever. I just got all the materials from movie makers, which is like something I can share also now in a chat, and created some, no, it won't be assigned to any links. So I can share with you some Google Drive, Nikita has it or whatsoever, where it was all the information about it, like what's that, blah, blah, blah. I wrote by myself a few points why it's important now. And again, it can be changed depending on the audience. So when I was contacting, for example, Harvard Club of New York, I was pointing out one angle. When it was Ukrainian organizations, I was able to tell even about Navalny. Sorry, it bothers me a lot. We can't let them win with all these resources and money behind. So again, depending on your connection and your ability to be honest with, again, your own passion about this movie, it's about kids. So sometimes I even put this information because, again, maybe as a fresh mom or whatsoever, it bothered me a lot when I saw this report from Yale that they have campuses, fucking campuses in Russia, where they're taking our kids and kind of like try to put something into their mind, separate them from their families. It's the same problem which is raised in the movie, and it's horrible numbers. So again, it's not connected by the movie. It's nowhere in the PR materials, but if you can kind of like, it's your passion and your understanding why you're doing that, why it's important to raise this topic, why it's important to talk about it, and to make as many people as possible to know about it. It's so again, it's your own always reasons behind it. It's not only copy paste always, and it depends on the audience. But what I provide, it's all the materials. And after you guys just reach me that we are ready, here's a date. We'll do everything by ourselves, because again, it's no resources except volunteers, just like Nikita. Okay, I have a date, I have a place, I have everything. Give me a link, give me information, give me guys to Q&A, and give me poster. He received everything and ran it by himself, organizing stuff. So those things I will provide. I can provide also letter, which is kind of like was my letter to reach people with just like offering something, or letter where I introduce a topic or open it. But again, it's probably more for you to learn about, because our main goal was to make as much noise as possible before Oscar, which is March 12th. So I don't see it as a project for 1 year or half a year whatsoever, unless, unfortunately, it will get an Oscar. So surely it still will be Ukraine movie about Ukraine, blah, 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 nominated for Oscar, which is also kind of like high standard and everything. But I don't see it as the such an interesting things to push after that, unless some of the clubs doesn't have anything in terms of interesting content, and they think that this content is interesting enough. And as Kate, for example, pointed out, speakers, it's a very high level speakers, because it's actually producers. So it's an opportunity to talk about people who were sitting 1.5 years on the front line. And it's a Danish filmmaker, and it's his second movie about Ukraine. So somehow people all around the world coming to Ukraine and doing some cool products in terms of culture and everything about our things. So again, I don't want to push anyone to do anything. It's just if you feel that it's the right content for you, or if you feel that it's easy to do, or if you feel that kind of like you want to do it for some reason and you can do it in a quite reasonable time, which is like upcoming 2 weeks, because again, for myself, it's so many projects. I knew that we can push it and have to do it as much as possible before Oscar. After that, I will be able to provide everything I just mentioned. It's just not as much urgency to make it as it is like now before voting of the Academy members.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. So my understanding is that there are quite a bit of people who already have been involved in organizing the movie showing. Nikita, maybe you can tell us a little bit more from a practical standpoint how to use those materials that Anna just described.
Yeah. And I'd like to begin with thanking Anna for professionalism and actually launching this campaign and helping throughout the way, because before when I was doing something or others were doing something in terms of events, it was more just relying on yourself and figuring out what to do just by yourself. And this time it was much easier because she just was there and helping with everything. In terms of technical things, how to implement this, like this very specific type of event, a movie night is much easier than anything else we were doing before, because you need much fast preparations. And that's why it would be easy for a lot of universities to do. How it looked for us, we figured out by trial and error that you need to advertise in the proper way. Best way is Facebook events, and through that you get support of local communities and nonprofits, and you can multiply your numbers pretty fast in a matter of days. And I would say that it's like a first thing to do with any event organization that we're doing here. Second thing, yeah, with Facebook event, because of you can multiply it by using the resources of other organizations. So for example, Max is doing his event at Berkeley right now, the House Made of Splinters at Berkeley Movie Night, and we as a Stanford group at Facebook can share that. Nova Ukraine can share that, UACC, and about like 8 other orgs can do that. So that's why it's so powerful, and you don't even need to create an ad and pay for this. And probably the only way that you can do it really successfully if you don't have other extra resources. Second thing is the most difficult with Ukrainian events is that you do it last moment every time, at least in the very beginning. And with places like Berkeley, they don't like that. So it's very narrow balance between like what you can do and what you should do. The best thing is if you can able to plan ahead, and then you have more room to make it better for yourself. This time I was a bit pressured by Anna to do it earlier than later, because we need to aggregate effect of the movie to influence the vote on Oscars. Berkeley did it, I think, much better than us because they took some time to better prepare for the event. And I will like help them with that too, in terms of Facebook and just asking friends to advertise it. And they can do it more professionally than I did, like just hiring it in a week or so. Oh yeah, and in terms of timing, it's because why it's difficult to do with Stanford is they take a really long time to confirm things, and it should be like a week or more before the event, and they did a official confirmation just on the day that it was launched, which is like not very good thing if they don't confirm it eventually. Another thing is in terms of planning, a lot of things need to be addressed. Like this time, because I was trying to make it much faster, I wasn't able to choose a date that would actually work much better, because the first one that we wanted to do didn't really work for Stanford. Actually, like 3 weeks in terms of like Friday, Saturday didn't work because of specific setup at Stanford, and like overall in the US, like a long holiday, people will be out, Parents' Day at Stanford, and like some other stuff. So I had to choose a day that wouldn't work as nicely. And in the end, it didn't work as nicely. Didn't expect like a lot of people. I just tried to get a lot of people. However, we got about 30 due to various reasons. And this just shows like that planning should be better. It's like learning mistakes. I expected something like that to happen, but too many issues happened because just of the date. People didn't come back from one holiday yet. People got stuck because of bad weather. People couldn't get to Stanford because of bad weather, traffic, and somebody didn't have lights. It was just cold and people didn't want to get out. But if I actually did the dates that I wanted initially, it could have worked much better. So taking enough time to prepare is, it's not only for this event, but as a general advice is really important to consider also. And another one that I really like, and it happened with previous events that I organized, and I try to bring it to this event as well, is to make something successful, it has to be already successful. It's a weird thing, but with Stanford, it works a bit easier. If you have something great, it will be easier for you to get something shining. Like previous times, we had White House event, and we had 2 headliners, Francis Fukuyama and Mike McFall. And so we already have a few cool things. We have Stanford, we have event at Stanford, and we have those 2 pillars. People are like, oh, okay, we want to come as well. So in the end, we got like 8 more organizations to be represented at the event and to talk there and actually unite them. Another event was Azov guys coming over, and we were also fully booked. This time we had a great movie, but we were not able to get like another shiny thing to get to the event and be there with us. And this is actually important. Like those shiny things, they attract each other, but you need to have enough critical mass in the very beginning. And this movie does have critical mass. What we don't have is like just enough of voice of the movie itself, because not a lot of people know about it. And we are short on time because the votes are soon. So we are pressured to do it not in the best way, unfortunately. But like maybe on the East Coast, like let's say at Harvard or MIT, we're like, okay, we have like this professor, actually this star passing by, they actually can drop in and be present and say a few words there. And they will actually would like to speak and like to be shown somewhere. That's what just happens to those people. And again, it's gonna work at any kind of event, especially here. And I was expecting Purnima or Dan to be there, but again, I had bad timing, and Bogdan was stuck traveling. Purnima was doing classes, but if I did something better in terms of dates, they would be there. But it's all good, guys. I managed by myself. It was pretty manageable. So this one is cool.
Nikita,
Yeah.
we have a question here from Kate. Would
Oh
you
yeah,
mind?
yeah. I missed it.
Yeah, I also ask for forgiveness from Nikita for not being there. I had like more of also a reflection because we actually screened another movie which was like a Ukrainian comedy in fall quarter. So usually how it happens that there is also you were like, oh, can we serve food? We don't know until we book the audience, and we don't know until we get the money for it. We need to apply for money. We need to be at least like 2 weeks in advance to know which room we're getting. We need at least 5 days from the request to the confirmation. So it's like these things take time. So I think the shortest is like 2 weeks to get a confirmation from Cardinal Engage. In I believe in your universities, you might also need to put your event on university agenda, and even to book a room for it, you need like 5 business days minimum. And then when you got confirmation for a room, you know if you can serve food there or even put the flyer together knowing the room. So there is a lot of things that needs to come together, which makes it complicated. And I'm sorry that this event was a little bit trashed, so we didn't give it enough exposure. In autumn quarter, even though it was a comedy and not related to war in Ukraine and anniversary was far away, we still had several weeks notice, and I think we had like over 100 people showed up, and a lot of people from the Bay Area showed up, even though we didn't have even the Q&A with the, so we didn't have a lot of the perks that you are giving, but we just had time that allowed us to do a little bit more of promotion. And also, like, given that our undergrads were engaged in this, they selected the movie, they spread it out among their friends, which was a lot of energy and fun. So just to my 2 cents here, that the time till the event ideally should be at least three weeks to get this done properly. Don't want to take more time.
We
Yeah.
did shorter than that, but it was just really challenging in terms of like how much work you need to put in. So it depends on the situation. But right now, situation is different than it was a year ago. Things are not that rushed. Now we're running a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we should be able to plan better. Like the situation has changed.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. I actually was just reflecting on what you were saying about like this planning things. So what we are doing right now with the team, we're trying to put all these guidelines that we receive from feedback from different parties, how to put together an event, or even like how to put together a club, and like make these short posters. So on the right hand side of the slide, you can see like that's roughly what the club needs to do to arrange a movie night, independently of whatever what the movie is. This is like an algorithm step by step and things that they need to consider. And of course, it's very rough and it needs detailization, and in every particular situation it works differently. But let me know if you feel like something is missing in those steps, and like type them in chat. I also want to remind all people who will be watching this recording is that the movie that we're talking about is A House Made of Splinters. Anna was sharing with us that it was an amazing effort to even bring the directors of the movie to the presentations of the movie on different locations. So if you know that the movie is being shown at the location where you are, either like in Boston somewhere or in Washington, D.C., highly encourage everyone to attend the event, because this is a unique opportunity not only to watch the movie sitting on the couch, but have some interaction with the people who had an immediate access to the movie, and also in between in the community.
Can I have also a quick comment? It's something that Kate was talking before. I'm not sure like how much time we have left, and it's just gonna take a minute or two. Kate, I really liked your comment about doing recreational events, and that's something that definitely should be done, because all time to be in focus and razor sharp and for specific purpose is very difficult in a long run. And recreational events, they are really more binding, and when people just can relax and be themselves without a specific purpose, just a general meetings of friends, is it works really well. And as a negative example of that, what happens right now, RSA, they a Russian speaking association at Stanford, they have an event today, Maslenitsa. It's actually happening right now, and as they've got about 260 people like reactions on Facebook event, and a lot of people who are going there are our people. So the faces that I see right now in invitees, they are Ukrainians, but they are gathering right now under Russian umbrella, and it's the things that happening a lot. Like the things that happening with the movies right now. It's a very specific case we were discussing. Like Navalny, it's like Russian liberals who are against Putin, and they are for this Russian movie documentary about Navalny. They get much more backing than a Ukrainian movie from Ukrainian side, which is more important, but not as well supported. So we should take back that that space, like to put more water in under our umbrella, and to have just like general meetings as well. They're like not trying to show here anything. They have been doing it for years. They've built their brand, and that's just like how Russian community works. And it's like good for them, but bad for us. And we should do something like that as well. It's not like stealing from them. It's just cooperation and self-organization on a different level. And we are kind of missing that. An event like this every 3 to 4 months, we need to do things like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I believe that every community, like maybe not every, but many communities across the US on campuses, they face exactly the same issue. That like last year, it was literally on the 24th, there was an invasion, and this news were like, shocked everyone in the world. And that same weekend, there was a Pelmeni party, which did not get canceled, or any other statement was made about how the news reflected on their cultural side. However, I have to mention also that there were a couple of clubs in the New York vicinity, some communities on the campuses in New York, which originally were like Russian/Eastern European clubs. They did indeed post the note, reacted very quickly, canceled their party, which was happening which was probably planned again in advance, but it was happening at around the date. And later on, they were also kind of like participating in all the activities that Ukrainian community was doing.
I think we need to ask ourselves a question, right? Do we want to help them realize how they can help Ukraine? Or we want to just have nothing in common and hope that they will figure out on themselves? We sometimes do have these questions in USAS. So far, we made a policy that we hope that they will come to right conclusion or right action themselves and we will focus on our stuff and we don't want to kind of collaborate. But maybe we need to revisit this decision. So it's just we need to create a strategy or like playbook how to work with these groups, if at all, because just competing with them would be hard. And honestly, just unfortunately, there are so many Russians.
So in terms of our own development, I wouldn't say that we need to compete with them. We just need to develop on our own. It's not about competition. It doesn't have to be a competition. In terms of collaborating with them, it's kind of tricky question because it really depends. The previous director of RSA at Stanford, David, he was actually the guy who helped us do our first event of USAS at Stanford.
Exactly, those could be powerful like helpers if we want to engage.
But his second hand at RSA, Vasya, he is, I hate this guy. He actually is the one who invited me to Maslins, and when he talks, he's just like a Russian troll, but I think he's just like emotionally underdeveloped, and that just doesn't understand what's really going on. And a lot of Russians are like that. They're actually in position of power. So it is possible to make a playbook, but you cannot get right answers every time. And if you get too close to that subject, like collaborating with Russians, you increase the potential of being hurt and having really difficult issues that might create situations like of conflict that's going to be brewing for a long time between large groups or between small groups. So I would say the main thing here is that we need to be really careful in what we do and not incite violence. And like when we do good things, we also can incite violence, like emotional violence is also violence. So that's just like my 5 cents in this.